Hello and welcome to CIPD Bitesize. In this video, we're going to look at the Unit 5HR02 Assessment Criteria 3.3, which is explain the impact of dysfunctional employee turnover. I got through that first time. Normally I mispronounce that word, so we're good for this one. Now you might be looking at this question going, well, it's slightly different to the question that I've got, and I can't really make sense of it, James, because I've been given a different question. No, you've not. So this is the marking guide. If you look at the CIPD report, you will see that this is what the markers and the moderators are given. You'll be looking at a question to influence senior leadership team to accept that employee turnover should be addressed, comma, explain the impact of dysfunctional employee turnover. So again, you've been given a bit more razzmatazz, a bit more upfront, but the fundamental question is the fundamental question. Now, as always with CIPD Bitesize, the first thing that we do is we break the question down into its component parts. And I like this question. There are no cheeky S's. There are no hidden additionals that you need to do. You have to explain the impact. So again, when you're explaining the impact, you're evidence-based. Prove it, stats, data. You're explaining the impact of dysfunctional employee turnover. So first thing that we always do is we break the question down into its component parts as we've done here, and then we'll break it into action points as we've done here. So explain, verb, to make something clear, to understand by describing or giving information about it. So the easiest way to do that is impact of dysfunctional employee turnover. One, so you might want to explain impact one is, and that's your subheading, explain impact two of dysfunctional employee turnover. Now, 5HR02 has 10 questions, 390 words per question. So it's 3,900 words overall. You can go 10% over, you can go 10% over, under, one word either way, instantaneous referral on the assessment. So try to stick within the word count. That gives you round about 200 words per AC. I would shoot for about 150 if I was you, because one of the previous questions is a pretty chunky question, and this is an opportunity to allocate some words to it. So the impact of employee dysfunctional turnover, if you're explaining the impact, you have to prove it. You have to prove it with evidence. You have to prove it with stats. You have to prove it with data. Have I proven it? Can I prove it? Can I prove it? Can I prove it? So what? So what? So what am I trying to say? What am I trying to prove here? And that's the big trick with this question. If you're explaining the impact, you're explaining the impact followed by evidence. So, for example, bad management has a massive impact on employee turnover. This can be seen by X, that is evidenced by X, and a turnover rate of X. So you prove. That's how you should approach this question. Now, as always, what we recommend you work out AC3.3 here. That's how CIPD want to see the assessment. They want you to lay it out in that way, and then you put your action points. Subheading is a distinct summary of the paragraph below. So if it's, for example, bad leadership, that is your subheading, bad leadership, and then blah, 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 blah. Action point two of dysfunctional employee turnover might be low pay, and then you explain low pay, and you go from there. But as always, we recommend some resources for you to read. The recommended resources for this are CIPD fact sheet, employee turnover and retention. That's got loads of information on there for you. CIPD article on employees turning counter offers to retain staff. It's big. If you're on LinkedIn, you'll probably see it every other day, which is never accept a counter offer, because obviously that means recruitment consultants don't get paid, and that's a completely different offer. You may put counter offers in place, you may do things, but again, that's completely to you. So why are employers turning to counter offers to retain key staff? And the big question is, why does it get to the stage where a counter offer is needed to retain staff? And that's really what that article digs into. And then the AIHR, which is the Australian version of thing, is dysfunctional turnover and 9 ways to fight it. It's really got a lot of useful information in and a lot of useful research in there. So again, studying with us, you'll see it straight in the VLA after. It goes in the same order, so you'll finish this video and then bush. If you've got any questions or anything else, you can reach out to us. We try to keep this information as up to date as we possibly can. So the CIPD article, we may put a new one in there or something like that. That may change, because we don't want resources to end up like 2-3 years out of date. We're trying to keep as information as current as possible. And this has been recorded in June 2024, and this assessment won't change until 2026. So there may be some updates. but try not to worry about it. Now, as always, to try and help you understand and contextualize the question, we do a bit of a fictitious scenario and a bit of a story to just sort of help you contextualize the question and understand how to approach it. Now, in this one, we're going to imagine a restaurant with a high chef turnover. So, and sort of explain how it relates to dysfunctional employee turnover. So, if you have a high chef turnover, you lose the expertise. So it's like just like a new chef needs time to learn the menu, the kitchen layout. A new employee needs time to become proficient. Frequent turnover means loss of built-up knowledge, and need to consistently retrain replacements so that no one's ever functioning at 100% because everyone's within a learning curve. You've got a disrupted workforce. A well-functioning kitchen relies on smooth teamwork. When a chef is constantly come and go, disrupts the rhythm of everyone else. You want in a well-run team and everyone knows what everyone else's strengths and weaknesses are. Can't do that with a high chef turnover. So you can't really pump out high-quality dishes on time. Low morale. It's another one. So, if you just like remaining staff in the restaurant would feel frustrated by constantly changing chef, constantly changing leader. Dysfunctional in turnover can hurt morale amongst remaining employees. So even if they're all great at the job, but you can't get a really good chef to stay, they may feel unsupported and question the company's stability. Higher costs and just this is always a thing one. So a restaurant will need to spend time and resources recruiting, training, interviewing, onboarding. So dysfunctional employee turnover leads to increased costs in recruitment, productivity losses, and the think about it from a business perspective. If, for example, your leader or your sales team is always in that development cycle, they're never functioning at 100%, and it disrupts operations. If your sales team is always functioning at 70% because there's that much turnover coming through, you're never going to make as much money as an organization. You're never going to get the high impact income that you've got, and potentially it puts more risk on the business. So it's just something to bear in mind. And this analogy is just to sort of help you understand how it can impact different elements. But stability, as well as you need turnover. You do need employee turnover. You need new ideas, you need fresh perspectives. You need new energy at times. But at the same time, if it's just constant churn, it can have a negative effect the opposite way as well.